So how much sleep do we need?
Well, maybe like perhaps like you, I was raised with the idea that 8 hours seems to be the standard recommendation. Of course, the amount of sleep that we need varies with age. So babies and infants need a lot more sleep. Young, children need more sleep. It seems that teenagers still need more sleep. They need to be able to sleep in the mornings. I've got vague recollections of that. As we go into our adult years, as we age, it appears that we need less and less sleep. So there's a bit of a shifting of gears required if we're sort of thinking that we must get 8 hours of sleep, but we find that we're kind of surviving on 7. Sometimes until we get comfortable with that, we can get a bit nervous about only getting 7 hours of sleep a night. There's some very interesting research done by a professor at the University of California who was a long-term sleep researcher. He studied over 1 million people.
Wow.
And over a course of time, of course.
Yeah.
And what he ascertained from his research is that rather than 8 hours being the optimal amount of time that we need to sleep, people getting between 6 and 7 hours of sleep, that was associated with lower rates of death. People that got more than 8 hours of sleep per night was associated with higher rates of death. And people that got less than 4 hours of sleep a night was also associated with higher rates of death. So he sort of worked out that around 6.5 hours for our physical health and longevity seems to be what this sample of 1 million people suggested is optimal. So
that's fascinating, because I think most of us have heard 8 hours and are pretty attached to that idea.
Absolutely. I've long been attached to the idea that I needed to get 8 hours, but I have noticed, I'm in my mid-50s now, I have noticed in the last 5 years or so, I seem to be surviving better on less sleep. So it kind of indicates to me that I'm needing less than 8 hours. And to read this research was quite comforting as well, in that it kind of, pretty well demonstrates that 8 hours is not necessary, but it seems that around 6.5, between 6 and 7 hours seems to be optimal for our health and well-being.
Yeah. One of the things that really tickled me in your book is you talk about waves of sleepiness, that we get this sort of wave of sleepiness. Well, and I know that you're a surfer too, and I long have had this sort of running argument or discussion with my wife when a certain time that when I start to get sleepy, I tell her, I've got to go to bed now. I've got to go to sleep. I don't want to miss my wave. Yeah. Very clearly having the image in my mind of that it's like surfing, even though I'm not a surfer like you are. Yeah. But I did grow up close enough to the ocean to have some experience of that. Yeah. And so I was delighted to see you talk about waves in your book, and even with a little cartoon, because that so fits my experience. If I miss that wave, if I stay up a little bit too late, then, well, I guess the research would suggest I might not get another chance for about 90 minutes, right?
Yeah, correct, yeah. Well, look, it may be an idea to read that chapter out to your wife.
Yeah, I'm gonna at least show her the cartoon and point that out. I don't think it'll win me many points, but yeah.
So it refers to that the waves of sleepiness refer to a biological cycle called the BRAC, which stands for Basic Rest Activity Cycle, which I think probably could be better termed the brain rest activity cycle, because it refers to the need that our brain has to take regular rests in regards to reducing its level of alertness. And as you said, around every 90 minutes, the average is about 90 minutes, but the waves come between 80 to 120 minutes. And they're waves of heightened levels of brain arousal, and then slowly going back down again to lower levels of brain arousal, where our brain is basically resting for 20 minutes or so. And that's the wave of sleepiness that we can all recognize. And we'll also experience this during the day. So it's not uncommon for people to be at work and just feel overwhelmed by tiredness. And if they happen to be in the middle of a very boring meeting at the time, And I've nearly done it a few times. My head's nearly slammed on the table right in front of me.
Right.